Okay, so I'm here at Gun Range 0 with a special early release sample of the new Ares CO2 revolver. So I was lucky enough to get this sample from Octagon Airsoft in Hong Kong. There have been apparently a very small quantity released early in December. The main batch will be released in February 2025, so I understand. So this is a full metal CO2 revolver. It is based on the real steel Smith & Wesson L frame or medium frame model 686. This is the 3.5 inch barrel version. Ares will also be releasing a 2.5 inch barrel version. So my sample has deep laser engraving, which Octagon Airsoft helped me to do. The production versions from Ares will not come with the laser engraving, so I understand. So we have the Smith & Wesson 357 Magnum markings on this side of the barrel, Smith & Wesson logo, Smith & Wesson markings here, and Smith & Wesson markings here. So this is an all metal revolver. The weight is actually 1,033 grams, or about 36 ounces, which is actually very close to the real steel. It comes with walnut wood grips. The grips can be removed without tools. You just pull them off. They attach via this metal clip, which clips over the CO2 cartridge. A handy Allen key tool is also included in the grip for removing the screw to put in the CO2 cartridge. So the butt of the revolver is in the round butt style. I've been told, or actually Ares have posted on their Facebook page, that they will be releasing different style grips. They will be releasing a wood square frame grip and different style rubber grips, which look similar to like the Hogue grips or Pachmayr grips, and maybe some other different color grips, red, blue, etc. So the grip just reattaches like that. So the gun comes with 6 shells. These are really nice metal shells. They have 357 Magnum markings on the case head, and they really look like old school semi-jacketed 125 grain or 158 grain hollow point ammunition. They use a metal case and a rubber tip. Rather than using an O-ring as some other manufacturers' shells do, the rubber tip helps hold in the BBs. They also come with, so when you receive the revolver, the shells will come in this case. Moon clip will be in the back. Obviously I've already installed the moon clip. So the gun has very nice sights. So you have the serrated sights there, black adjustable U-notch sight. Unfortunately it is lacking the white outline which Smith & Wesson revolver sight should have. And you have a very nice red ramp front sight, very nice visible red sight. So I will say the trigger pull on this is probably the closest I've ever felt in any airsoft revolver to real steel Smith & Wesson revolvers, and I have shot a lot of K-frame, L-frame, N-frame Smith & Wesson revolvers in my time. It is a very smooth trigger pull, and I will measure this later with my trigger pull gauge, which unfortunately I did forget to bring today. So downsides to this, I've only got a few very minor complaints so far. So one is the hammer doesn't sit all the way forward, and so you have a small gap here. This is because obviously you have the gas output valve here. Other minor complaint is, and there's pros and cons to these cartridge. The pros are this rubber tip looks great, it holds the BBs very securely, but because it's rubber, sorry, I have another brand shell in there. Because it's rubber, it kind of easy to catch up on the charging holes in the cylinders, so you have to be very precise when you're putting in your moon clip. So what I'm going to do is probably take a Dremel tool later and slightly chamfer and polish the edges of the holes there. So really impressed by the fit, feel and finish of this revolver so far. So next we're going to move on to the chronograph test and the shooting test. Oh, one last thing to mention, it does have an adjustable hop-up via an small Allen grub screw at the top. Okay. Alright, we're here at gun range 0 to do the chronograph test on my early release sample of the Ares Smith & Wesson 686 3.5 inch barrel Airsoft CO2 revolver. So using the Ares cartridges with 0.25 gram BBs. It's not a completely fresh CO2 cartridge in the gun. We've probably fired about 40 shots. Okay, let's just restart. Okay, first shot. Okay, 298 FPS. Second shot. 331 FPS. Third shot. 312 FPS. Fourth shot. 308 FPS. Fifth shot. 304 FPS. So actually quite consistent, around just over 1 joule. And sixth shot. 311 FPS. Alright, so we have an average of 311.3 FPS. So not too bad. So, now, I've also found that the gun will work with wind gun shells, which look like this. So we are going to do a chronograph test with the wind gun shells. Now the wind gun shells are slightly shorter, they don't come all the way to the front of the cylinder, so I'm anticipating a little bit of a FPS drop, but let's try it. Alright, so 0.25 gram BBs and the wind gun shells. So first shot. Okay, 262, 0.8 joules. Second shot. I don't think that registered. Okay, third shot. 275, 0.88. Fourth shot, 318, so 1.18 joules. Fifth shot. 312, sixth shot, 331. So we have an average of 300 FPS. So all the shots were around 300. Okay, so no, 3 of the shots were around 300 and something FPS, 2 were 200 and something FPS. Okay, alright, so we're here at gun range 0 with the early production sample of the new Ares Smith & Wesson 686 CO2 Airsoft Revolver. I have the Ares shells loaded with 0.25 gram BBs and a fresh CO2 cartridge. So we are going to shoot 3 rounds double action at the metal IPSC target and 3 rounds single action at the small disc target. So all hits. So now we are going to use the wind gun cartridges in a Safariland jet loader. So same thing, 3 shots double action, 3 shots single action at the disc. That was my fault.
That's why we repeat the command.
My fault again. Okay, so I do need to adjust the sights, but works fine and pretty accurate. Okay. Hi, so I'm back home a few days later with the Ares Smith & Wesson 686 CO2 revolver, 3.5 inch barrel version. This is just a kind of short follow-up my conclusions video and just a few random extra comments as well. I've got to say that overall I am incredibly impressed with this revolver. You know, as Ares' first try with the CO2 Airsoft Revolver, they have done an excellent job. I personally feel this is much better than comparable revolvers such as the ASG Dan Wessons, the wing gun revolvers, or the new, well, not new, relatively new UMA-X Model 29 and 629s, which, to be honest, I quite dislike those. It's got a really nice weight to it. As I said, it's at 1,033 grams, about 36 ounces. It's pretty close to the real steel weight. It feels really solid. The build quality feels good. There are a few minor blemishes if you look really closely in the finish, like just behind the rear sight there on the electroplated finish. There's a little bit of a blemish, but overall it looks really good. And as mentioned at the start of the video, when Ares released the guns, it's not going to come with these markings. These markings were done by Octagon Airsoft in Hong Kong. Unfortunately, one thing I realised, they did this L, which stands for lock marking, with an arrow, which the more modern versions of real steel Smith & Wessons have, with the lock there, which is called the Hillary hole. But saying that, this cylinder release on the Ares version also does function as a lock. So if I push it back, it locks the hammer and trigger. If I push it forward, there's an audible click there, it releases them. Now, as I said, the trigger pull on this is super nice, super smooth, and having shot a lot of real steel Smith & Wesson revolvers, this is the closest in airsoft form to the feel of a real Smith & Wesson trigger. What other comments come to mind? So I shot this at a distance of between 3 to, I think, 10 or 11 meters, or 3 to 10 or 11 yards at the range the other day. I was pretty impressed with the accuracy. A lot of airsoft revolvers I found are not very accurate. This I was able to shoot 6-inch metal disc plates at 10 yards, no problem. Both shooting double action or single action, two-handed or one-handed. Much better accuracy than my ASG Dan Wessons or my UMA-X Model 29. Better power than my Tanaka and Marashins as well, and a bit better accuracy. My only other airsoft revolver which I found rivals or even perhaps slightly exceeds this in accuracy is my UMA-X all-plastic CO2 Smith & Wesson R8 revolver, which for me is like a super accurate revolver. At 14 yards, I've hit 7 out of 8 6-inch metal disc targets with that, no problem. With this at 10 yards, shooting a cylinder, 6 shots at the metal disc targets at 10 yards, I was probably on average hitting 5 out of 6 shots. So pretty accurate, and I think with more practice that'll improve. Only other comment I can think of, or 2 more comments, is I think I forgot to mention this does come with a hop-up. There is a hole in the top of the rear sight there with a grub screw inside, which you can access with an Allen key. I didn't bother adjusting it or trying to adjust it, because for me, with the 0.25 gram BBs I was shooting, it was shooting flat and straight out of the box. As long as the CO2 cartridge had enough power, I did notice a phenomenon where once the CO cartridge dropped down to maybe 25 or 30% power of the remaining charge in the cartridge, Accuracy did start to drop off. I did start to notice some of the BBs were like veering off left or right or up or down. Wasn't consistent. I'm going to keep an eye on that, but as long as it was a fresh cartridge and, you know, down to about 60, 70, 75%, it was shooting very straight and flat. Only other thing I'm going to comment on is the odd choice of barrel lengths, and I think I might have made a mistake in the earlier parts of the video. So the two releases that Aries are going to do are a 3.5 inch, which is this version, and a 2 inch. Now, as far as I can tell, and I've been looking in some of my old Smith & Wesson literature, I don't think Smith & Wesson ever released a 3.5 inch or a 2 inch. They've released for the real steel 2.5 inch, a very limited run of 3 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches, and 8 3/8 inch as standard. So I'm not sure why Aries chose these two barrel lengths. I'm hoping though they will release a 4 inch and a 6 inch version later. Would definitely be interested in those. But I've got to say, this is really nice. The balance is, it shoots, it's powerful enough, it shoots accurately enough. I would definitely use this in indoor games. I'm going to be using it in target shooting a lot more as well. Once Aries release some different grip options, I would prefer a fuller size grip, because as this is fairly muzzle heavy, the round butt style grip, for me, it feels good in the hand, but I prefer something a bit more hand filling to help balance it. I think this grip will be better with the shorter 2 inch barrel version. Anyway, really impressed, really love this. I think it's finally cracked the code of having a usable Airsoft CO2 revolver.